And thank you so much for joining me today for day 12 of Christie's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches round 10. And today's sketch is by Kathryn Ronson, another Brit who I've had the pleasure of meeting. She's a lovely girl and I do like her sketch that she's done today. So I actually pulled out some Vicki Boutin pieces. This is the new Vicki Boutin print shop stencil that I'm using here with Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide, and I pulled out my Fernwood collection, but in fact as we go along I barely use any of the Fernwood and turn to my older stash to use some of those bits up. So first of all I'm creating the photo mat that Kathryn's put at the back of the page. You can just see the sketch above my layout there. I've decided to do that with mixed media rather than pattern paper. So here we have it, and that's the photo that I'm going to be using. It's my husband and I on our trip to Boston back in 2015. We're at Fenway Park, the baseball ground. So just going to map this photo onto this pattern paper from Fernwood, just a navy blue. I want to pull out the blues from the bleachers, the green from the ironwork above the bleachers, and the red that's on the bleachers. So I'm focusing on those three colours today that are in the photo. So I've already matted my photo onto white cardstock just to give a slim border, and now I'm, as I say, matting it onto this blue, and then I shall, as per usual, distress the edges of this just to make it pop a little bit off that background. So just going around with my Tim Holtz edge distresser tool to give a rough edge to that paper. Now that's done, I'm going to go in with my Darkroom Door stamp. It's a film strip stamp. We'll be stocking these very soon at Hey Little Magpie. I just wanted to see how they worked before committing to stocking Darkroom Door. It's not a brand I've used before. So just inking this with the Black Soot Distress Oxide and then stamping it onto a scrap piece of paper, and I shall cut that out. And I'm really pleased with the crisp, clean image that it gives. So these two will be matted behind the photo, a bit like the strip that Kathryn has in the sketch on the left hand side of the photo, behind the photo. So I'm doing it in black, and then I shall do it in the Candied Apple red. But Candied Apple is a very bright red, and I didn't want my red to overtake the layout too much. So I've actually kept that black ink on the stamp without cleaning it off, and that gives it a really nice muddy effect. So the red still shows through, but the black dulls it down. You'll see when it's stamped here. So I promise you this was intentional. It wasn't just me being lazy and not cleaning my stamp. So you can see how that black's mixed in with the red and really dulled it down there. Once this is cut out, I'm actually going to activate the oxides in the ink by wetting them both and leaving them to dry. And I really love how that makes the colours bleed. Just adds dimension, I suppose, and texture to it. It doesn't make it quite so clean. So just popping those one at a time onto some acetate so that I can, some packaging, so I can wet it. So the first one I'm just sprinkling the water with my paintbrush. The second one I get a bit more aggressive and I go in with the mister. But you can see how that red's bleeding through, and I really like the effect it's giving. Just making it look a bit old and worn, a bit like the bleachers at Fenway Park, I suppose. So just dabbing up the excess there. I don't want it to bleed too much, and then I should move it out the way to dry. And then do exactly the same with the black, but as I say, using my mister bottle rather than the paintbrush. And I'm also misting the green background that I've put down there to lift some of the ink off and activate those oxides. And using a tissue just to dab up the excess water there so that the paper doesn't warp too much. And that also lifts up some of the colours from the ink, and I really like the look of that. So just checking I'm happy with it now and how it looks with my photo over the top, moving these out the way to dry. And you can see on the left hand side there I've pulled out some of my older stash to use, just pulling out the greens, reds and navies that I've got. So coming in with this Darkroom Door grid stamp, and I'm just going to stamp a grid just around the edges of the photo. So just bringing the ink pad to the stamp and then stamping that down. You normally get a couple of images from each inking. And I just want it to peep out, but it's not peeping out quite enough, so I have to add a little bit more in a minute to the top. I can't remember whether I did the top or the bottom, but I'm getting better as I do the sides. I realise that the actual stamped image is quite a long way inside the stamp, so that's how I wanted it on the sides. So just going back in on the bottom and just adding a little bit over the top. And that's that with that stamp. So now these film strips have dried a little bit. They're going to be, as I said, tucked in behind here. The black one's still a tiny bit damp, but it's fine. And I'll stick those down with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. So now going through these Snap alphabet stickers, and in 2 packs I found 2 different greens. You don't get an awful lot of each of the letters, so I've had to mix them up, but I just alternate between the lighter and darker green to spell out the word Fenway, and then I use the black alphabet to spell out the word Park, and that's going to be my title. And it's a nice, clean, simple layout this. I'm trying not to put too much on it this time. I've done quite a few very intensive layouts recently, so I just wanted something clean and simple, just showing off the photo of us two. So as I say, I've glued those 2 down just with my Nuvo, and that's great because it gives me the chance to move things around if I'm not quite happy with the positioning. I hadn't put them quite low enough, so just messing about there. Now coming in with my 25mm foam pads from Sticks 2 that we stock at Hill of Magpie, and popping those on the back of the photo just to make it pop up off the background, make it the focal point of the layout, which is what you always want. And there we go, and now it's time to carry on with the embellishing. So first of all, just getting that title down, and I will use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive on each of the letters just to make sure they're thoroughly stuck down. These are a good few years old now, so I want to make sure that they stay where I put them. So just finishing the final letter there. And I think that looks great. I love using the green and black there, and just sticking to this colour palette seems to really work. So now going through some very old, these days, Cocoa Vanilla word strips to see if there's anything here. And I think actually these pink and green one, I don't think they are from these days. I think they're from a Rosie Studio collection. But I decided to go with this one that says Grateful. This trip was a very special one for us. My husband had a heart attack. He's fine, but he had a heart attack a few years ago, and this was the trip that we had promised we would have when he came through it. So using that word grateful is just a nod to the fact that we really were very grateful that we could do this trip. So now going in with these Studio Calico stickers, and I found a green circle with a white star on, which just fits nicely in that little cluster that I'm going to build there. And then these Jenny Bolin stickers, which I keep trying to use up, and I want to use this circle sticker, so I just use it and poke as a just as a background piece really, and poke it out the side there. I think it looks quite nice, and then I shall add something on top of it just to complete it. So looking to see what else I've got, and these Jelly Bean Soup stickers are the ones. So I cut the flag off one side, and that will go there, and that's going to hold my date. And then just looking to see what else. This My Mind's Eye sheet that says thanks a million. Now the reasoning behind that is because going to a baseball stadium isn't necessarily something that I would want to do, but Ross was very keen, so we did, and it was fascinating actually, and I really need to try and broaden my ideas of what we should be doing when we go on trips a little bit more, because it was really interesting learning all about it. So just going to build this top cluster that Kathryn has on the sketch now. So using that banner sticker from an old Illustrated Faith with Bella Boulevard, and then the other half of that banner sticker that I'd used before from Jelly Bean Soup that just says today. Checking out what else I've got on this Studio Calico sticker sheet, and I find a little grey star, so that mirrors the green star that we've got bottom left quite nicely. Now coming in with my hole punch, the circle reinforcer punch, and just using these to scatter some circles round. And I thought this was quite a nice nod to the circular ball that you use at a baseball game. So just adding a few of those in navy and then a couple in red as well. Not too many, just a little bit to add a little bit of something. And that's those. So I bend them up in the middle and then just glue the middle bits down there, just to give a bit of texture to the layout. And they should stay popped up because the photo is on foam when it goes into the page protector. The page protector will be held away from those, so they should stay a little bit popped up. Now I've just added that gold heart, puffy heart there from the 6x12 puffy stickers from the Fernwood collection, and now I'm going in with my journaling. So my title is slightly to the right, where Kat had hers to the left on the sketch, but I think I've stayed pretty close to the sketch today, so I'm very pleased. So just adding a very small amount of journaling, which just reads, touring a baseball stadium wasn't top of my list of things to do, but I'm so glad we did. So now coming in with some splats, and first of all I want some controlled splats, so I'm using the stamp from the Fernwood collection that you will have seen me using before if you watched my previous videos, and then I'll go in with some ink splattering, watering down the Distress Oxide and using my paintbrush. And that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for joining me today to watch this process video. I really hope you're enjoying them. Please do give me a like, a comment and a subscribe if you feel like it, if you're enjoying watching them. Do check the description box down below to see everybody else joining in on this 30 Days of Sketches hop. There are some amazing talented people joining in, and it's wonderful watching their videos, and you get great ideas by watching YouTube. I'm sure you know that anyway. And with that, I shall see you tomorrow for the next sketch. I'll leave you to watch the end of me flicking ink, and there are some close-ups at the end. See you tomorrow. Bye.